What the Court of Owls originally represented in Gotham was order and a distant form of organized crime. On this channel, the Court of Owls has been mentioned, explained numerous times on other videos. Yet there is more information to be said about this specific organization. In this video, I will dive into the lore behind the Court of Owls, initially where they came from, while also explaining some examples of adding a certain environmental focus to tie everything together. That is a major thing that games need, not just Batman games. And lastly, implementing this type of story and my thoughts on what this could mean. Take nothing in this video way too seriously, because at the end of the day, this is all just sheer speculation on something I'm hoping to see. Also, correct anything I get wrong in the comment section down below. I'm taking this from information I've read and comics that I've also read. Let's dive into the Court of Owls. Okay, so as I said before, there's a lot of lore to really look at with the Court of Owls, so here's a little history lesson on the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls was the oldest organization group that predates back to the 1600s. This organization inflicted many criminal acts while doing terrible terroristic acts like going to the circuses and taking children, recruiting these young children and molding them into talents for the Court of Owls. This history alone even predates the Revolutionary War, long before the United States was even a full country instead of the 13 colonies. If you didn't know where the Gotham is depicted to be located, Gotham takes place in the state of New Jersey, as you can tell with the New Jersey accents. The Court of Owls have been moving through Gotham to the point where every stone is designed to their liking, which in fact makes this topic so much more interesting. Many of Gotham's wealthiest families were involved and did terrible acts centuries ago in Gotham City. Major families had some involvement with the Court of Owls. If you didn't remember who the 5 families of Gotham are, these are the Kane, Crowns, the Elliots, and the Waynes, and the Dumas lineage. There has been a video made pertaining to these 5 families of Gotham City and what they were at their height. Someone who can explain it a lot better than I can. If you want to watch that video, you know where to go. Before I dive deeper, here's some lore you may or may not have known about. Basically, the Dumas lineage was expelled from this group and 200 years later changed their name to Gallivant. The main family who expelled them was indeed the Waynes. Many of these families have already died off, changed names, or had disappeared from Gotham. Characters like Azrael, Nightwing, and Hush are distant relatives of these families. Now, one family that had a more personal involvement in some capacity was the Crown family. Here's a little backstory on the Crowns. The Crowns were descendants of Dick Grayson's family. When the daughter of Burton Crown had fallen in love with William Cobb, Burton had eventually found out about this and had told Amelia there was only 2 kinds of people, the rich and the poor, and that there were no gray areas. Burton had banned William from ever seeing Amelia Crown. Being so distraught, he had joined the Court of Owls as a talent. Amelia was impregnated before William was banned and gave birth to his son. William had then stole the child and then had said to Haley, "Take care of the gray son of Gotham," which gave him the distinct name Grayson. Given that, the lineage had passed down with the name Grayson, which became, later on, Dick Grayson. Other members of the court back in the 1600s used murder and money to wield political influence over centuries. Many landmarks this organization has used over the years: industrial Gotham sewers, the Gotham catacombs, and other businesses and major landmarks in Gotham City. Each part of Gotham is crawling with secrets. The Court of Owls ran deep into Gotham. Major families that had threatened their existence were executed with this chant, as they claim is as old as time itself.
Not a whisper word is said. For if you try to crush them, then the talon strikes you dead.
Bruce Wayne was one of the many members of the Wayne family that had evidently threatened the court and their existence. As a young child, Bruce Wayne was told of the court's existence when his parents would put him to sleep. As his father claimed, it was just a story. Following the death of his parents, Bruce was determined to find out why the court had killed his parents. Young Bruce Wayne stumbled upon nothing, no residual evidence. In later years, Bruce Wayne had threatened their presence by building a better, brighter Gotham. We also see hints of this type of future without Batman and Arkham Knight. One reasons on why he decides to tear down old Gotham by rebuilding a new one. But in this universe, this is just some sheer speculation, so take this with a massive grain of salt. but this could have been the causal factor for Batman's death in this game. The Court of Owls originally were created or organized to bring order to Gotham, and yet they do cruel and violent things to do so. Kidnapping, racketeering, corruption, and other major crimes to gain power over Gotham City. The story in itself has major depth, and this is something that can be talked about enough. Court of Owls is crawling with city officials, police officers, mayors, businessmen, club owners, detectives, lawyers, judges, and so on. This is why Gotham City is one of the most corrupt cities in the US. This organization is the founding father for organized crime itself. The amount of storytelling could be told in a vast majority, especially in a game seemingly expanding through days at a time. The amount of time can have a huge impact on how storytelling and environmental focus can go in this game. Arkham achieved this in many ways. This is a topic I won't dive into too much, yet there has been a video made solely on this similar topic. If you want to check that out, you know where to go. Basically, if Gotham Knights can add what Arkham did, this can achieve many heights, especially with story and building up the things we need to actually keep it interesting. Arkham Asylum is a topic game. I like to talk about it just because of the immense focus put on this game is incredible. I do say strongly in my own very personal opinion, this is the best Arkham game focus-wise, but that is neither here nor there. In this game, there's a lot of lore and key details you can find while traveling in the asylum. Certain secrets and scriptures hidden within the walls of Arkham, with every inch of the asylum screaming something. Areas of the map seem more disconnected than others, not because of a bad story, but because the story is so good. Doctors' offices carry heads and hands with them, different procedures that will haunt you for life, patient and inmate records that are sometimes disgusting yet terrifying. While we as the player find different areas of the asylum that tell us the story of what this place used to be. Today as Arkham was a warden at the asylum at one point. He wanted to rid Gotham's curse of crime and corruption, and in that repercussion, he had tortured his inmates with immense amount of shock therapy, taking limbs from other patients and planting it on others as test subjects, using unethical surgical tools to give his inmates / patients therapy that quote-unquote makes them better. He later then became an inmate at the asylum, claiming to have remained in the shadows, while then possessing Quincy Sharp, the warden of the asylum. This alone gives us a full story on the history of Arkham and how it affects even inmates today. Other examples you may find within this kind of focus is Arkham City. This game in particular has hundreds of Easter eggs, but more importantly, each place speaks for that specific type of villain. For example, the museum is called Pot's Domain mainly because of his obsession with collecting things, more or less. He even created his own lounge within the museum for his own personal purposes.
Now this little minx is a real puzzle. Where did she come from? How did she kill 8 of my men before we managed to hold her down and beat her into unconsciousness? All I know is, I like her pajamas. Press the button and watch the puppet dance. Don't send your boys in here, Army. Next time I'll cut them in two. Come to think of it, you'd probably like that, wouldn't you?
Courthouse, however, where we first meet Two-Face, represents his character. Harvey Dent was a district attorney for Gotham, while also his downfall into madness happened inside the courthouse in most iterations, and in this context helps us understand Two-Face. Even the Underground's under Wayne Tower represent Raish's organization mainly because it stays in the shadows. In that we discover many things that could have been built here for centuries, which even these sewers are specifically called the Old Gotham sewers. Old Gotham has been built up for centuries in contrast to New Gotham across the bay. These are the small tidbits we will need if we need or can deliver major characters such as the Court of Owls in full effect. This is something that can potentially be achieved if done right. Other RPGs made today are not as in-depth with storytelling as other games made today. There are major disconnects with story and other side quests that are too hard to beat due to level increased by mobs. Other parts of the map are closed off until you reach a certain level, and other sections of the story closed off because you haven't made it to that specific area. While the developers of the game say that these things won't be the case, there are still some major concerns I have about this game. Although WB Games Montreal are the creators of Batman Arkham Origins, in which that game had a well-developed story, it was so central to the story that everything connected, but most of the team that had worked on that game has been replaced. Here are a few ways they can set up or describe these characters. Instead of creating meaningless side missions, they themselves can actually create areas in the map which the characters have to find to unlock secrets about the Court of Owls. While certain parts of the map can be mainly dedicated to that specific purpose and none other, while also having the side villains in the game actually say something about themselves by using the environment around them, hence environmental focus, without having to make them tie completely into the story. These things are what make games so interesting and not just plain boring. This is how a game can really tell a story.